Hello, and welcome back to the deep dive. Ever stop to think about the real power behind just a thought, not, just any idea, but a really intense desire, that feeling you absolutely must achieve something.
Right. That burning desire, as our source today calls it.
Exactly. And this idea that maybe those thoughts, well, maybe they're actual things, tangible forces that can, literally change your world, even bring you riches.
It sounds a bit out there initially, maybe.
It does. But we've seen it, haven't we? People starting with, well, absolutely nothing and building incredible success stories.
Hmm.
So today, that's our deep dive.
Yeah.
We're looking into exactly that, the huge impact of your mindset, of sheer persistence, and that unwavering, burning desire on reaching big goals, especially, financial success.
Yeah, and this isn't just philosophy, is it? We're drawing from insights gathered from actually more than 500 incredibly successful people, real principles that took them from often poverty to massive influence and wealth.
Okay, so what's the main source we're diving into?
Our main source is Napoleon Hill's classic, Think and Grow Rich. It basically distills all those lessons, those observations,
Yeah.
into a kind of blueprint.
A classic for a reason, I suppose. So, our mission today, we're going to unpack some of these stories, this wisdom from Hill,
Right.
try to figure out how these shifts in thinking and action lead to such, well, frankly, amazing results.
And hopefully help you listening see how you might apply some of this in your own life.
Yeah, how people actually thought and grew rich. Let's get into it.
Okay.
So, let's start with maybe the most famous story from the book, Edwin C. Barnes, and his absolute obsession with working with Thomas Edison.
For him, but with him. That distinction is key.
Right. And think about where he started. Basically no money, didn't know Edison from Adam, couldn't even scrape together the train fare to get to Orange, New Jersey.
Yeah,
I mean, for most folks, that's game over right there, isn't it? You just think, okay, impossible.
absolutely. The obstacles were huge. But Barnes had what Hill calls a definite purpose. That clarity, that laser focus on partnering with Edison, that was his driving force.
And he was willing to do anything, right? The blind baggage story.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Riding illegally on a freight train, it just screams determination. He was literally staking his entire future on this one goal.
Wow. So he gets there, finally stands in front of Edison, looking like a tramp, as Edison himself apparently said later. But Edison saw something else too, didn't he? Something in his eyes, his face?
Yeah, Edison recognized that look. He said, when a man really desires a thing so deeply that he is willing to stake his entire future on a single turn of the wheel, he is sure to win. He saw that absolute resolve in Barnes.
Powerful stuff. But it wasn't instant success, was it? He didn't get the partnership right away.
No, not at all. He got a job, sure, but it was pretty low level. Nominal wage, doing stuff Edison probably didn't think much about.
But for Barnes?
Oh, for Barnes, it was everything. Because it put him in Edison's world, in his orbit. And he didn't just wait passively. Hill says he constantly intensified his desire. He kept that goal burning bright.
He stayed ready.
Exactly. Proving Hill's idea that when one is truly ready for a thing, it puts in its appearance. Barnes just knew he had to be there when opportunity knocked.
And then it did knock, but maybe not in the way he expected.
Right. It showed up disguised, you could say, as this new invention, the Edison dictating machine, the Ediphone.
And the regular salesmen, they weren't keen on it.
No, they thought it was a tough sell. Didn't see the potential, apparently. But Barnes,
He saw it.
he did. He saw opportunity in this queer-looking machine.
Yeah.
He knew he could sell it. He went to Edison, suggested it, got his chance.
Yeah.
And he didn't just sell it, he smashed it.
Became incredibly successful with it.
So successful that Edison gave him a national contract.
Mm-hmm.
And that led to that famous slogan.
Made by Edison and installed by Barnes.
That's the one. Partnership achieved.
Amazing. He literally, as Hill puts it, thought himself into a partnership. Started with nothing but knowing what he wanted and the sheer determination to see it through.
No money, little education, no influence. Just that burning desire and the will to win. It's really the cornerstone example of the book's philosophy.
Okay, so Barnes shows the power of desire and persistence leading to success. But what about the other side? What happens when that determination just breaks?
That's where the story of R.U. Darby's uncle comes in. A stark contrast.
Right, the gold rush story. Caught the gold fever, went west to dig and grow rich.
Yeah, filled with that initial excitement, they staked a claim, worked incredibly hard, pick and shovel stuff.
And they actually found gold.
They did. Real, shining ore. But they needed machinery to get it out efficiently.
So they covered it up, went back home, raised money from family, friends, People believed in them.
Shipped the machinery out, went back, and the first batch they mined proved it was a huge find. One of the richest mines in Colorado, apparently.
Wow. So they were on the cusp of it. Debts almost paid. Big profits about to roll in.
Down went the drills. Hopes were sky high. And then
Enough.
the vein just
Yeah.
disappeared, vanished. They hit the end of the rainbow, as Hill puts it.
Oh, no. So they kept drilling.
Desperately. Tried everything, but couldn't find it again. It was just gone.
And what do they do?
They quit.
Just quit.
Yeah. Gave up, sold all their expensive machinery for a few $100 to a local junk man, and went home defeated.
That's heartbreaking. But there's a twist, isn't there?
A huge, costly twist. The junk man, he wasn't so junky after all. He was smart. He called in a mining engineer.
Okay.
The engineer looked at the situation, did some calculations, and realized the Darbys didn't understand fault lines. Basically, the vein hadn't disappeared. It had just shifted geologically.
No way.
Yes way. And the engineer figured out exactly where it would be.
How far?
Just 3 feet. 3 feet from where the Darbys had stopped drilling.
Oh, you're kidding me. 3 feet.
3 feet. The junk man started drilling there, found the vein immediately, and made millions. Millions the Darbys gave up on.
Wow. That's a tough lesson.
It really is. And Hill uses it to make a critical point. Quitting, when you hit temporary defeat, is maybe one of the most common reasons for failure.
And he mentions that so many successful people say their biggest breakthrough came right after what felt like total defeat.
Exactly. Just one step beyond that point. Failure is often just testing your resolve, seeing if you'll push through that last little bit.
But Darby, Darby himself, he learned from this, didn't he? He didn't let that failure define him forever.
No, he absolutely learned. He turned that tendency to quit into incredible persistence later in life.
Mm-hmm.
And it apparently came from a really simple, almost funny observation.
The 50-cent lesson.
That's the one. Years later, he saw this little girl, a tenant farmer's daughter, asking his notoriously fierce uncle for 50 cents.
And the uncle's reaction?
Just kept saying no. Got angry, even threatened her. But the little girl
She just stood there.
didn't budge an inch, kept demanding it, quietly, persistently, until the uncle, unbelievably, just gave in and handed her the 50 cents.
Wow. She just wore him down with pure persistence.
Exactly. And Darby saw that. He realized the power in just not giving up.
Yeah.
He applied that directly to his next career, selling life insurance.
How so?
He said whenever a potential client said no, tried to brush him off, he'd picture that little girl.
Standing her ground.
Right. And he'd tell himself, I've got to make this sale. He said most of his biggest sales happened after the initial no.
Yeah.
That persistence, learned from the 50-cent incident and the 3 feet from gold mistake, made him a top salesman.
That's incredible, turning failure into fuel like that. It reminds me of the other story you mentioned, Henry Ford and the V8 engine.
Yes, another perfect example of sheer determination. Ford told his engineers he wanted an engine, an 8-cylinder block, cast all in one piece.
And the engineers.
They basically said, boss, that's impossible.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I bet they did.
They tried everything, apparently. Couldn't figure it out. It just couldn't be done, according to the experts.
But Ford wasn't having it.
Not at all. He just said, go ahead anyway. Stay on the job until you succeed, no matter how long it takes.
Talk about commitment.
They worked for months, a year.
Yeah.
Still nothing. Every report was failure. But Ford just kept saying,
I want it and I'll have it.
exactly. That unwavering certainty. It wasn't just wishing. It was demanding it from reality almost.
And eventually.
Eventually, as if by magic, Hill writes, they found the secret. They figured it out. Ford's determination won again.
So Ford, Barnes, Darby's eventual success, it all comes back to that same core idea, doesn't it?
It really does.
Yeah.
Knowing exactly what you want, that definite desire, and then having the relentless determination to see it through, no matter the setbacks or what the experts say.
So let's tie this together. What does this mean for us, for the listener? Hill makes this bold claim. Riches begin with a state of mind with little or no hard work. That sounds controversial.
It does sound provocative, yeah. But I don't think Hill means you literally do nothing.
Okay.
It's more the primary work, the foundational stuff, happens in your mind. Getting that absolute clarity of purpose, building that burning desire, cultivating the persistence, that's the crucial work.
So the physical effort follows the mental blueprint.
Precisely. Once your mind is locked onto the goal, the actions you take become focused, effective, almost naturally guided towards it. It feels less like grinding and more like flow, maybe.
Okay, that makes sense. And Hill talks about the mind becoming magnetized.
Yeah, that's his analogy. Our dominant thoughts magnetize our brains, he says. attracting the people, the circumstances, the opportunities that align with those thoughts. It's like this universal power kind of adapts to whatever signal we're sending out strongly.
It's about focus, then, making you notice things you otherwise wouldn't.
That's definitely part of it. When you're intensely focused on a goal, you start seeing pathways and connections that were invisible before.
But here's the kicker he mentions. This power, this magnetism, it doesn't care what you're thinking about, right?
Exactly. It's impartial. It will amplify thoughts of poverty, lack, and failure just as readily as thoughts of riches and success. Whatever dominates your mind, that's what tends to manifest in your reality.
So you have to consciously choose your dominant thoughts.
Absolutely. That's the core of shifting from what Hill calls failure consciousness to success consciousness. It's about actively training your mind to look for solutions, opportunities, and reasons why you can succeed, instead of dwelling on obstacles and reasons why you might fail.
Breaking old habits of negative thinking.
Deep-seated habits, often. He mentions how some people are just so used to thinking in terms of limitations and poverty that the idea of riches feels completely foreign, almost impossible.
Like that anecdote about judging others by our own limits. The Chinese student seeing Americans' eyes as queerly slanted.
Right. We project our own internal landscape onto the world, which is why Hill took that symbolic step of actually cutting the word impossible out of his dictionary.
He literally did that.
Apparently so. To physically remove the concept as a valid barrier in his own mind, success comes to those who cultivate that success consciousness.
And importantly, this isn't just Hill's opinion or wishful thinking.
No, he stresses this repeatedly. These principles came directly from studying the lives of over 500 extremely successful people, many who started with nothing. No money, little education, no connections. It's based on observed, real-world results.
And the impact lasts. You mentioned Jennings Randolph.
Yes, a member of Congress who explicitly credited a principle he learned from Hill years earlier at a commencement address for his entire career trajectory and future success. It shows these ideas can have a profound long-term effect when applied.
Okay, so wrapping this up then, the core message seems pretty clear.
Yeah, your dominant thoughts, fueled by that intense burning desire and backed up by sheer persistence, they are genuinely powerful forces.
They really are things that can shape your life.
And remember, opportunity might not look like opportunity at first. It might look like a weird machine or even like failure. Success could be waiting just past that point where you feel like quitting. The critical difference is often just sticking with it.
So, a final thought for everyone listening. Think about your own life. Is there something you've written off as impossible? Something you stopped pursuing?
Yeah.
What if, with that unwavering desire and persistence, that goal is actually just 3 feet away, waiting for you to drill just a little bit further?
Maybe it's time to consider which impossible thought you need to metaphorically, or maybe even literally like Hill, clip out of your own mental dictionary.